The New Orleans Saints just did the one thing the NFC South begged would never happen. They woke up at the worst possible time. Nobody expected a team sitting at 2-8 to turn around and stack 4 straight wins, like it was nothing. Then walk into Week 18 with real confidence and real bite. And the scary part is not the streak, it is how it looks. This does not feel like luck, it feels like a switch flipped. Tyler Shuck is not playing like a guy trying to survive Sundays. He is playing like a guy who believes the field belongs to him, and that belief is starting to infect the whole building. You can see the change in the way the Saints move. With Kellen Moore calling it, the offense is not tiptoeing anymore. It is pressing on the gas and asking defenses hard questions early. Routes are hitting with purpose, space is getting attacked, and the ball is coming out with a calm that makes you look twice because it should not look this steady so fast. And while everyone is watching the offense, the defense is quietly getting mean again. Cam Jordan and Demario Davis are still setting the tone, but now it is not just veterans holding the line. You have Quincy Riley flying to the ball, Kool-Aid McKinstry erasing windows, Jonas Sanker cleaning up the deep stuff, and Justin Reed bringing that edge that makes an offense feel every snap. But here is the twist. This is not just about pride or rivalry heat or ending the year on a high. This one Sunday in Atlanta can change the entire map of what the Saints deal with next season, who they face, how hard the road is, and how the league talks about them the minute the schedule drops. Win, lose, it still bends the future. And once you realize that, the Falcons game stops feeling like the last page of a season and starts feeling like the first page of 2026, because the result can unlock a totally different set of opponents that either hardens this team fast or gives them a softer runway that comes with its own trap. So now the real question becomes simple. What exactly does this one result decide for the Saints next year, and why is nobody talking about how big it really is? But before we jump into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Saints content. Can we get 100 likes on this video? Here's what most people miss. The final spot in the division is not just a pride thing, it is a code that the schedule makers use to decide who gets added to your year. Your home and away games inside the NFC South are locked. That never changes, and the rotation games are already waiting too. The only part that swings is the set of matchups tied to where you finish, second, third, or fourth. And that is why this Sunday is dangerous. One result can move New Orleans into a totally different lane, and suddenly next season looks like a different sport. Finish higher and you start pulling opponents that live to punish mistakes. Think about what it means if that slot lines you up with a test like San Francisco or a lights-out stage like Dallas, plus a cross-conference draw that feels like a playoff game against the Los Angeles Chargers. Finish in the middle and the names can shift into a different kind of pressure. A heavyweight like Kansas City, a rising fight like Washington, and a team like the Los Angeles Rams that knows how to drag you into four-quarter stress. Slide lower and the slate can look softer on paper. Matchups like the Las Vegas Raiders, the New York Giants, and the Arizona Cardinals. Teams still finding their true form. It sounds simple, but the feeling of a season changes when you know the calendar is either loaded with tests or loaded with games where one bad habit can hide for months. The shocking part is that the easy path can be the one that lies to you. It can give you wins that feel good in the moment, then expose you when the real teams show up, and it can also push you just far enough down the draft board that the next big piece slips away. A harder road can do the opposite. It can force growth, reveal what must be fixed, and make the locker room tougher by the time December hits again. And that is where this story gets even more serious. Because if you want to understand why New Orleans might not fear the hard lane at all, you have to look at the young wave they just brought in, the names that stepped into the league and started changing the future right away. The Saints do not feel dangerous right now because they caught a lucky bounce. They feel dangerous because a whole wave of first-year talent walked in and took real jobs. When ESPN put out its list of top first-year players and the Saints had Tyler Shuck, Kelvin Banks, Quincy Riley, and Jonas Sanker sitting there together, that was not a cute moment for fans. That was the league admitting the Saints hit on the hardest stuff at the same time: quarterback, blindside protector, and 2 playmakers in the secondary. You do not get that kind of foundation by accident, and once it shows up, the timeline changes fast. What makes it even louder is the depth behind the headline names. Vernon Broughton flashed real bite inside before injured reserve, the kind of body you can rotate in and still keep power up front. Taliesin Fuaga stepped in at tackle and looked like a long-term answer, not a short-term bandage. Danny Stutzman brings speed and heat at linebacker when the call comes, and Devin Neal showed real pop before his own injury slowed the momentum. Then you look at pieces like Moliki Matavao and Fadil Diggs, not stars yet, but built for the kind of dirty work teams need when the season turns into a fight. And when Kool-Aid McKinstry lines up with Quincy Riley, it stops looking like a thin corner room. It starts looking like a room that can grow together for years. Now this is where it stops being just a youth story and turns into a warning. Young players usually need time, they usually play careful, they usually wait for a veteran to blink. These guys did not wait. They grabbed the future and pulled it into the present, and the team is starting to move like it knows it. But the biggest question is still sitting right at the center of it all. Because when a team gets bold this fast, it always comes back to one thing. What kind of plan is being built around Tyler Shough? And what exactly is that plan asking defenses to survive every single snap? The Saints did not just get hotter, they got clearer. You can feel it in the way drives start now, like they already know where the weak spot is before the defense even settles. That is what a real plan looks like. It is not chaos, it is pressure with a purpose. And it is built to let Tyler Shough play fast without playing reckless, which is why this offense suddenly looks like it has a spine. What nobody is talking about is how many easy answers are baked into the calls. When the defense loads the box, there is a quick throw waiting. When defenders sit back, the run has room to breathe. When the first read is covered, there is a second option that feels natural instead of forced. That is why the ball keeps finding the right people without the quarterback having to beg for miracles. Chris Olave is the obvious magnet when he is on the field, but the structure also gives Dante Pettis and Kevin Austin Jr. cleaner chances instead of impossible matchups. It also makes life simpler for Audric Estime, because if the pass game stays on rhythm, the defense cannot lean forward all game. Even the protection looks calmer because the timing is cleaner. And that matters when you have young pillars like Kelvin Banks and Taliesin Fuaga trying to set the edge while Luke Fortner keeps the middle steady. Here's the scary part. This is the kind of offense that gets better the more snaps it gets on tape, because every week adds another layer defenses must worry about. It starts to feel like the Saints are not just calling plays, they are setting traps and waiting for one wrong step. And that is why the next thing we have to do is slow it down and actually watch what happens when the ball is snapped. Because once you see how Tyler Shough reacts to coverage, how he pulls defenders with his eyes, and how the design gives him a clean answer when pressure shows up, the whole surge starts to look less like a streak and more like a warning. The box score will never tell you why defenses look a half step late against New Orleans right now, because the real damage starts before the throw. Watch Tyler Shough at the line and you see a quarterback who is not guessing. He is hunting. He is scanning the shell, waiting for one tiny shift, one little twitch from a defender that gives away the truth. Then the snap happens, and it feels like he is already on page 3 while the defense is still opening the book. One play looks harmless until you catch the setup. Chris Olave goes in motion and the back end slides just enough to show their hand, and Tyler. Shough does not rush it. He uses his eyes like a steering wheel. He holds the middle for a beat, then drops the ball down the sideline to a route that only opens if the safety hesitates. And the pass lands clean like it was placed there on purpose from the start. On another snap, he sells a quick throw to the flat, the defender jumps it, and the real target is already leaking out behind that bite. A late hitter that turns into a chunk gain. Then you see the muscle of it, play action pulls linebackers up, Juwan Johnson slips behind them, and the ball is already moving before the window even feels open. And when the defense finally panics and plays softer, Dante Pettis becomes the pressure valve, sharp breaks, quick separation, and Tyler Shough takes the easy money without forcing anything. Now here's the part that should make Atlanta uneasy. This is not one favorite throw. It is a pattern. He is winning with timing, with calm, and with the kind of control that makes defenders argue after the play. But the next test is the one that decides if this is truly real Because the Saints might have to do it without Chris Olave, and that changes everything about how the Falcons can cover the field. So the question is simple and it is heavy. When the top target is gone, does the system still keep its teeth, or does the whole thing shrink in the loudest moment? The moment the Saints learned Chris Olave would not be out there, the whole week changed shape. Not in a loud way, in a quiet way that hits harder. The safety blanket is gone. The easy answer is gone. And now every person on that offense has to look in the mirror and decide if this surge is real or if it was only real when the biggest name was drawing the attention. This is where Kellen Moore earns every ounce of trust he has built, because the play sheet cannot lean on the same old comfort anymore. The ball has to move through people who have been waiting for their moment, and that moment is not coming gently. Tyler Shuck has to keep the same calm, but now the reads are sharper and the margin is thinner, because defenses will try to sit on the first idea and dare someone else to win. That is where Kevin Austin Jr. can turn from a nice story into a real problem, where Dante Pettis can become the chain mover on the hard downs, and where hungry names like Samori Toure, Ronnie Bell, and Elijah Cooks either rise into the light or disappear into the noise. And here is the pressure point. Atlanta will treat this like blood in the water. They will try to squeeze the field, crowd the short zones, and force the Saints to prove they can still create clean space without that one threat pulling everyone out of place. If Tyler Shuck stays patient and still makes them defend the full width of the field, the story changes in one night. Because then it is not about missing a star. It is about a system that keeps biting no matter who is missing. But to survive that kind of coverage, the Saints are going to need one thing that travels anywhere: a steady ground attack and an offensive line that can turn a loud road game into their kind of fight. Atlanta wants this to become a loud passing night where the Saints have to chase points and answer pressure every snap, but New Orleans has a different weapon: power, patience, the kind of run game that does not care about noise. You saw it in that Tennessee fight when Jeffrey Simmons was blowing up the backfield early, and every carry felt like running into a wall. Then the Saints kept going anyway. Drive after drive, they kept feeding Audric Estime, and the hits started to add up the other way. Then the crack finally came. One hard cut, one burst through contact, and suddenly it was not just a long run. It was a warning that this team can win ugly if it has to. That only works if the big men play like they are angry, not careful. And the Saints are starting to get that look up front. Kelvin Banks has been taking that left tackle job like it belongs to him, staying steady even when the edge rusher tries to turn the corner with speed. Talisi Fuaga brings that heavy right side push that makes defenders hate the fourth quarter, and Luke Fortner has been keeping the middle calm with clean snaps and firm calls. The guard spots have been a grind, but when Cesar Ruiz, Dylan Raduns, and Torricelli Simpkins come off the ball together and move bodies, the run game stops being hope and starts being control. And when the run game is real, it protects everyone because it keeps Tyler Shuck out of obvious passing traps and it forces the defense to play honest. Here is the twist. This ground plan is not just about getting yards, it is about stealing the game from Atlanta before it gets wild. Every hard carry shortens the night, every first down cools the crowd, and every long drive keeps Bijan Robinson watching from the sideline instead of slicing through space. It also sets up the part people forget: a run-heavy script lets the Saints defense stay fresh and violent late, which matters when the Falcons try to lean on their stars. So once the Saints prove they can control the fight on the ground, the next question gets nasty. Can the Saints defense finish the job against the names Atlanta is betting everything on? The final whistle in Atlanta will do more than end a season. It will decide how the league talks about the New Orleans Saints. If Tyler Shuck stays calm and wins, this stops being a cute run and becomes proof that New Orleans is no longer easy to ignore. Kellen Moore will be judged on his plan without safety nets while Mickey Loomis studies which players are ready to carry bigger roles. Veterans Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, Taysom Hill, and Falcon stars like Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Jesse Bates, Xavier Watts all feel that weight. Whatever happens, this game sets the label on the Saints, showing what they already are and what 2026 is about to expose.